A single video game once caused the United States Congress to hold emergency hearings and directly resulted in the creation of an entirely new ratings system that still governs the industry today. One game. That is how powerful, and how controversial, this medium can be. In the next 10 minutes, you are going to discover exactly which games shook governments, sparked moral panics, and permanently changed the way society thinks about interactive entertainment. Some of these controversies you already know. But one of them involves a game that was banned not because of violence or sexual content, but because of something far more disturbing that almost nobody talks about anymore. To understand why certain games become lightning rods for controversy, you have to understand the world they were released into. For most of the 20th century, games were seen as children's toys. Simple, harmless, pixelated fun. Parents did not worry about what was inside a game the same way they worried about movies or music. That assumption of innocence is exactly what made the controversies, when they came, hit so much harder. The first major tremor happened in 1976 with a game called Death Race. It was a black and white arcade game where players drove a car and scored points by running over stick figures that the game called gremlins. Critics immediately pointed out they looked exactly like people. The game made national news. ABC News covered it. Consumer groups protested. Arcades pulled it from their floors. And this was 1976, years before home consoles were even a mainstream concept. Death Race proved early that games could provoke genuine public outrage, and it set the template for every controversy that followed. But nothing, absolutely nothing, prepared the industry for what came in 1992. Mortal Kombat arrived in arcades with a feature that changed gaming history forever. Fatalities. Brutal, over-the-top finishing moves where players could rip out spines, tear off heads, and reduce opponents to bloody piles. Parents were horrified. When the game came home on the Super Nintendo, Nintendo scrubbed the blood and replaced it with gray sweat. Sega kept the blood in, requiring a cheat code to unlock it. Sega outsold Nintendo's version dramatically that holiday season. The message was clear. Players wanted the real thing. But the game that truly broke the dam was Night Trap, released in 1992 for the Sega CD. It was a live-action game where players watched over a house full of young women being stalked by vampires. Senator Joe Lieberman held it up on the Senate floor as evidence that gaming had gone too far. Combined with the Mortal Kombat controversy, these hearings resulted in the creation of the Entertainment Software Ratings Board, the ESRB, in 1994. Every single rating you see on a game box today, the E, the T, the M, all of it exists because of this moment in history. One congressional hearing reshaped an entire global industry. Here is what nobody talks about when people discuss those Senate hearings. The politicians who pushed hardest for regulation had barely played the games they were describing. Lieberman famously confused details about Night Trap and public testimony. The controversy was driven almost entirely by moral panic rather than genuine analysis. That pattern, outrage without full understanding, would repeat itself again and again across the next 3 decades. Grand Theft Auto 3, released in 2001, became the next cultural flashpoint. It put players in a fully 3-dimensional open world where they could carjack vehicles, hire and then eliminate virtual sex workers to recover money, and evade police. The mainstream media treated it like a manual for criminal behavior. Politicians across multiple countries called for bans. Australia refused classification for several entries in the series. And yet Grand Theft Auto 3 sold over 14 million copies, spawned a franchise worth billions, and is now studied in university media courses as a landmark in interactive storytelling. The controversy did not kill the series. It made it immortal. Then came the game that stands as perhaps the single most controversial release in history. Manhunt, developed by Rockstar Games and released in 2003, was not just violent. It was deliberately, systematically brutal. Players took control of a condemned man forced to execute criminals on camera for a snuff film director's entertainment. The game ranked and rewarded kills based on how graphic they were. A teenager in England was murdered in 2004, and initial reports linked the attacker to Manhunt. The game was pulled from shelves across the United Kingdom. Investigations later revealed the victim was actually the one who owned the game, not the attacker. The ban held anyway in several regions. Manhunt remains one of the few games that caused a real-world political response based on evidence that was factually wrong. The controversy that almost nobody remembers clearly, but which genuinely deserves more attention, involves a game called Super Columbine Massacre RPG. Released in 2005 by an independent developer named Danny Ledon, it recreated the 1999 Columbine High School shooting as a role-playing game. The intention was explicitly educational. Ledon wanted to explore the social failures that led to that tragedy. It was rejected from the Slamdance Festival after sponsors threatened to withdraw. It generated enormous debate in gaming journalism about the line between art and exploitation. And here is the genuinely uncomfortable part. Critics who actually played it in full argued it succeeded as an artistic statement. The controversy was never fully resolved, and it never will be, because the question at its center is genuinely hard. Can a game be simultaneously offensive and meaningful? BioShock Infinite in 2013 sparked a different kind of controversy. Not about violence in the traditional sense, but about racism. The game was set in a floating city built on white supremacist ideology, and players spent much of the game committing mass violence against working-class, racially diverse revolutionaries. Some critics argued the game used progressive aesthetic trappings to disguise a story that ultimately sided with the oppressors. Others called it brave commentary. The debate raged for years in gaming circles and academic spaces. It represents a maturation of the controversy conversation, moving beyond gore and into ideology, representation, and what stories games actually tell beneath their surface. The most recent major controversy in this space involves 6 Days in Fallujah, a game based on the 2004 Battle of Fallujah in Iraq. Originally announced in 2009, it was cancelled after veterans and Iraqi civilians objected to a real military event being turned into entertainment, while the wounds of that conflict were still fresh. It was revived in 2021 and released in 2023, facing renewed protests from anti-war groups and from Iraqis who argued the game presented only the American military perspective of an operation that killed large numbers of civilians. The developer responded by adding contextual documentary material. Whether that addition was enough remains genuinely contested. What all of these controversies reveal, when you lay them side by side, is a consistent pattern. Games threaten established power structures and social comforts in ways that other media do not, specifically because they are interactive. You are not watching violence. You are performing it. You are not observing a racist society. You are navigating it with a controller in your hand. That shift from passive to active engagement is what makes games uniquely provocative, and it is what makes the controversy around them uniquely difficult to resolve. The other consistent pattern is that the controversy almost never kills the game or the developer. It amplifies them. Mortal Kombat is a franchise worth over $1 billion. Grand Theft Auto 6 is one of the most anticipated releases in entertainment history. Controversy, in the gaming industry, functions like a megaphone. The moral panic draws attention that marketing budgets cannot buy. But that observation cuts both ways. Because sometimes the controversy is not manufactured outrage from politicians who do not understand the medium. Sometimes a game really does cross a line. The challenge, for players, for critics, for regulators, and for developers, is figuring out where that line is. And in 30 years of controversy, nobody has agreed on an answer. What is undeniable is this: the games that provoke the most outrage are the same games that push the medium forward. Before you go, if you learned something valuable today, hit that like button right now. Subscribe to Pixel Pulse for a brand new video every single day. We will see you in the next one.